because we have a very, 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 very special guest, Dr. Lisa Liberman. You are joining us here on the Morning Buzz. Let me make sure the people can hear you by turning up on the board. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Isaias. It's so nice to be here. And I've really enjoyed listening. I actually live in a home that listens to morning sports radio, and I'd actually rather listen to all of you. You make a lot more sense than most of the stuff I hear in the morning. So, and I'm with you on the players versus the owners. And I'm all for the players because maybe they make a lot of money for a short period of time, but they also leave with all kinds of injuries and long-term challenges that no money can pay for. So I came to talk about health challenges. So ask away. Just to clarify, I'm the chairperson of our academic department of public health at Montclair State University. We've got a thriving undergraduate and master public health program, an exciting new Master of Public Health, Master of Business Administration dual degree, and some really exciting programs in an area that everybody's talking about these days because I think we're all learning the importance of public health. So I'm really delighted to be here today.
Well, we're excited to have you and talk about a couple things related to smoking, actually. So I feel like this is a conversation that has kind of been pushed to the side, where smoking is still very dangerous, everyone, and people are still smoking. So could you please inform us on some of the effects that smoking could possibly have on you?
So before I do that, I want to say the irony is that in fall of 2020, Montclair State became another of about 1,600 public universities nationwide to become a completely tobacco-free campus. The irony of that is that that had been something that was in the works for about 3 years. If you notice, the signs about where you could smoke on campus got fewer and fewer and fewer, fewer and fewer, so that the places you could smoke on campus were narrower and narrower over time, with the full rollout to be fall of 2020. And of course, as we know, fall of 2020 was the semester that we went fully remote. So I remember coming to campus one day, a completely empty campus due to COVID. I came to get some things from my office, and there were these beautiful new signs about us proudly being a tobacco-free campus. And I thought, and there's nobody here to see them. We had worked on it for so long. The reason we had worked on it for so long is that we still know that tobacco is the underlying root cause of the leading causes of death. And if we look at the leading causes of death in this country over the last 40 or 50 years, those have been heart disease, cancer, stroke, asthma, and other lung-related conditions, and smoking is still the number one cause of all of those things. And I would add to that, that with respect to COVID, smokers who get COVID also have much, much worse outcomes, particularly younger smokers. So that's the interesting thing, is that for most of you, you may not be thinking about COVID as the life-threatening disease that it still is, but for smokers, it's particularly problematic. And so the health effects of cigarette smoke and of vaping has not changed. We're seeing less of those outcomes because smoking rates have gone down dramatically over the last 10 to 20 years. But for smokers, those health effects have not changed at all.
Could you walk us through some of the effects of just being around smokers?
So that's, of course, the concept of secondhand smoke, which is that, first of all, children who grow up in a home where there are smokers are much more prone to asthma. Children with asthma are much more prone to the worst outcomes of asthma if there are people smoking in their home. But also for any of us in smoky environments, raises the rates of asthma, of lung cancer, of heart disease. So the secondhand smoke in many ways is just as problematic as what we call firsthand smoke or smoking ourselves. It's hard at this point to really even separate the two. And that's the reason for so many of the smoke-free environments. And in fact, in most states, in New Jersey, New York, and surrounding states, you haven't been able to smoke in a restaurant or a bar for upwards of 10 years. Direct recognition of the fact that cigarette smoke is still deadly, causes many, many diseases, whether you're smoking it yourself or whether you're in the vicinity of smoke. And of course, many people have sort of differentiated the vaping and said, well, if I'm vaping, I'm only really affecting myself, which is true to some extent. But the flip side of that is that the amount of nicotine in the vapes is actually quite a bit higher than it is in cigarettes, causing greater addiction and leading many people ultimately to smoking cigarettes anyway. So, the vaping has sort of added a new wrinkle to the whole picture, but we still have to think about nicotine addiction as one thing.
Absolutely. And something that I noticed, at least from my time from kindergarten, probably until freshman year of high school, was smoking was always priority number one. It was like the gateway towards drugs and alcohol abuse. And then suddenly when I was in high school, you start to notice this sort of transition from what we started talking about. It started being less about cigarettes, but more focused on vaping, like you mentioned. So I'm wondering if you believe that officials have kind of turned like a blind eye towards cigarettes in order to combat vaping for children.
I would actually say no. There's no blind eye. Certainly all of us in the field know that cigarette smoking, there are still 480,000 people in the United States of America who smoke cigarettes, not vaping, who smoke cigarettes. That number has gone down dramatically over the last 10 to 20 years, which is a good thing, as vaping has gone up dramatically. And I mean dramatically. Vaping has more than tripled amongst young people. And the interesting thing about vaping is that the tobacco industry will say that that was developed as a way to help smokers quit smoking, which is nonsense. While it does actually assist some smokers in quitting smoking, and there is some data that supports that, in fact, the tobacco industry has sold vaping, and particularly the flavored vapes and the flavored e-cigarettes, as a way of addicting another generation of young people to nicotine. And so it's not that vaping has replaced smoking, but vaping has now become the gateway to smoking. I would disagree with you that smoking is the gateway to marijuana and other harder drugs. That argument has always been a contentious one. And there are many, many, many people who smoke and continue to smoke cigarettes and don't use any other drugs. The smoking itself is its own horrific addiction. Smoking has been said to be tobacco has been said to be as addictive as heroin. In fact, it's one of the most difficult addictions to break. And the overwhelming majority, 99% of smokers, began smoking cigarettes or vaping at this point before the age of 26. And of that, probably 3/4 of those before the age of 18. And so youth smoking is really still the most critical thing we have to pay attention to. And I think that schools have shifted to focusing on vaping because young people have seen vaping as the safe way to smoke, as the new cool way to smoke, also as the way to do it and people don't know about it. I can easily hide a vape in my fist where I couldn't hide a cigarette. And so, the vaping epidemic has changed the conversation, but nobody in the field has stopped worrying about cigarette smoking because we still know that it's responsible for the highest number of deaths of any cause in the United States of America and around the world.
Since vaping seems to backfire, what are some ways we can help someone to stop smoking?
I'm sorry. When you say when vaping seems to backfire, you mean the use of vaping as a way to quit smoking?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, for some very heavy smokers, electronic cigarettes, vaping, i.e. vaping, has been a way to reduce not so much to reduce the addiction, because there's still, the addiction is to nicotine, but it does reduce the other harmful effects of smoking. It reduces the tars and the other things that are in cigarettes themselves. So for some smokers, the electronic cigarettes has been a real boon. And I think that that argument is often what's used by the tobacco industry to say, oh, well, we shouldn't restrict vaping. For smokers who really want to quit, though, even young smokers who are cigarette smokers that want to quit, there are lots of different approaches, group programs, individualized support programs that help people quit either cold turkey, which the vast majority of smokers quit cold turkey, or quit gradually or cut down gradually. And most health departments here on campus, our campus health service has quit smoking programs as well that require a great deal of support from other smokers and from other professionals, but also nicotine replacement therapy. And I want to differentiate that from vaping. So NRT, which is short for nicotine replacement therapy, can be used either as a gum or a lozenge or other kinds of, or a pill even, that actually helps smokers reduce the addiction by slowly limiting the amount of nicotine. So, and NRT is not the same as vaping because it's not designed to be continuously used. It actually takes about a month for NRT, either by, there's gum, there's lozenges, there's other ways of using nicotine replacement therapy, the patches, what we hear of as the patch, that actually helps smokers wean themselves off of cigarettes. So it allows you to sort of little by little lower the dose of nicotine so that you can manage the addiction little by little. And it really, really helps for addicted smokers. And I say addicted smokers, but the reality is that many, many young people, particularly who don't think they're addicted, are already showing signs of addiction. So when we think about high school smokers who say, oh, I'm just doing it because my friends do it, or I'm just doing it to be cool, or I'm just doing it to have something to do with my hands or to put something in my mouth, many of them actually have a harder time quitting than they realize, because you become addicted very, very quickly. And so even the nicotine replacement therapy, it's safe. It's safe for pregnant women. It's safe for young people. It's safe for people with lung disease and any other kinds of conditions as a way to assist them in quitting smoking. And most of the states, the New Jersey State Health Department and many other organizations in New Jersey have quit lines and online resources and ways that people can actually get NRT for free, so that that can assist them in quitting smoking. And I would venture to say that college students who started smoking when they were in high school, if they feel that they want to quit, they may actually need some help because they may not recognize the extent to which they're already addicted.
Wow, that's a lot to digest right now. I appreciate so much of the information you just shared with us because it's very important and it's something that needs to be noted. And yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Liberman, for coming on to the Morning Buzz. It was a great conversation, and who knows, maybe we'll even talk in the future.
I'm happy to talk anytime, and good luck, and don't smoke.
Don't smoke, guys.
Or vape. Or vape.
All right, guys.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a wonderful day.